The title of creator has never been easier to claim. Publish often enough, attract an audience on almost any social platform, and the world begins to call you one. But the easier the title has become to claim, the harder its meaning has become to see. So what does it really mean? What are you actually claiming when you call yourself a creator? His story reveals the difference between having ideas, producing output, and actually creating. A distinction that has become increasingly difficult to see as the title of creator has expanded. In the modern digital world, almost anyone who regularly produces and publishes content can be described as a creator. You can record an opinion, edit a short video, attract attention, and enter an entire professional category organized around the continuous production of content. The title has become so widely distributed that it now describes the broadcasting of thought almost as often as it describes the creation of anything genuinely new. This is not an argument against content production. Content can educate, entertain, provoke, and connect. It can carry an important idea across continents, shape conversations, and introduce language for experiences that previously remained unnamed. But your ability to publish is not the same as your ability to create. Visibility is not proof that you have brought something new into existence. The continuous expression of what you think does not necessarily mean that you have transformed what you imagine into something real. By the end of this video, you will understand what separates a creator from a content producer, why that distinction matters, and what the title of creator demands of you. We have gathered the complete framework behind this essay into a book called What Does It Really Mean to Be a Creator?, available through the Grand Library. It develops these ideas in greater depth and provides a fuller structure for applying them to your own creative life. You can find it at thegrandlibrary.earth. At the center of that framework is a simple way of thinking about creation. It is the movement from imagination into form, from possibility into reality, from the invisible into the visible. The creator is the person through whom this movement takes place. For most of history, the distance between imagination and physical expression was enormous. You could possess a remarkable vision while lacking the capital, machinery, labor, or institutional permission required to build it. Production belonged to those who controlled infrastructure. Distribution belonged to gatekeepers. You could imagine far more than you would ever be permitted to realize. That distance has now collapsed. From a single desk, you can publish a book, produce a film, design a product, develop software, establish a global community, or begin building a company. Tools once reserved for governments, corporations, and wealthy institutions are increasingly available to ordinary individuals. Knowledge is accessible. Production has become decentralized. Distribution is immediate. The gates have not disappeared entirely, but they no longer possess the absolute authority they once held. Yet the removal of external limitations has exposed a more intimate obstacle. You may possess almost everything required to begin, while remaining unable to carry an idea consistently from imagination into form. Access can make production possible. It cannot make you a creator. The central question of the creative age is therefore no longer whether you have enough access to build what you imagine. It is whether you possess the creative discipline required to carry a possibility far enough for it to become real. And you may already be living among the remains of possibilities that never acquired form. There may be books that exist only as scattered notes, films that were discussed but never produced, and projects repeatedly redesigned without ever being released. Your imagination continues to generate possibilities, but few survive the journey into reality. Over time, you may begin to interpret this pattern as a defect in your character. You may conclude that you are lazy, unfocused, or incapable of completing meaningful work. You compare the scale of what you can imagine with the smallness of what you have made, and the distance between the two begins to feel like evidence that something is wrong with you. But some of this paralysis was inherited from the industrial world that shaped how you were taught to understand intelligence, work, and identity. For generations, schools, corporations, and cultural institutions were designed to reward the specialist. You were expected to select a discipline, master a narrow function, and perform it with increasing efficiency. The person who repeated a specific task reliably possessed clear economic value. The person whose mind moved across several disciplines was difficult to classify. Perhaps you are a writer who also thinks like an architect, a designer interested in theology, a filmmaker drawn to economics, or an entrepreneur who moves instinctively between art, technology, and institution building. You may have been repeatedly told to choose one lane. Your range may have been interpreted as confusion, while your curiosity was treated as an inability to commit. When your mind refused to become narrow, you may have assumed that you were the problem. Yet what appeared to be a lack of focus may have been the presence of a different form of intelligence. You may not experience disciplines as isolated territories. You perceive the relationships between them. Something you discover in architecture transforms how you approach storytelling. A theological principle influences how you structure a company. A lesson from biology changes how you imagine a community. You do not merely collect information from different fields. You combine it into possibilities that could not have emerged from any single discipline alone. This capacity is creative intelligence. Creative intelligence explains how the creator perceives. It is the ability to recognize relationships others have overlooked, envision possibilities that do not yet exist, and hold an invisible world within the mind before its individual parts have been assembled. But creative intelligence does not, by itself, make you a creator. It allows you to see the possibility. It does not guarantee that you will give the possibility form. This is where many gifted people become trapped. They possess extraordinary powers of perception, but remain unable to translate what they see into reality. Their minds produce books, businesses, products, stories, and institutions faster than their lives can build them. They become identified with the scale of their imagination, while leaving little evidence of it in the world. The problem is not that they lack ideas. The problem is that imagination and execution do not obey the same laws. Your imagination is expansive. It moves quickly, ignores material limitations, and explores multiple possibilities without consequence. Within imagination, the idea can remain perfect because it has not yet encountered resistance. Every ambition can remain intact. Nothing has to be sacrificed. Execution is restrictive, material, and often unforgiving. It requires you to make decisions, select priorities, accept limitations, and choose one possibility at the expense of many others. The moment an idea enters reality, it becomes vulnerable to imperfection. Inside your mind, the book is complete. The company is elegant. The film is beautiful. The product works flawlessly. Then you begin. The sentences appear weaker than the thoughts that inspired them. The first prototype feels crude. The business model reveals contradictions. The team cannot see the vision as clearly as you do. Resources prove inadequate. The work begins to lose the purity it possessed while it remained invisible. This is where many of your most promising ideas may have died. You did not necessarily abandon them because they lacked value. You abandoned them because their first physical expression failed to resemble the perfected possibility you carried in your mind. You interpreted the natural friction between imagination and execution as proof that something had gone wrong. Instead of allowing reality to refine the vision, you retreated into imagination. You told yourself that you were waiting for greater clarity, better resources, or a more favorable moment, while imagination quietly continued expanding the project beyond anything you could reasonably begin. You may even have become highly skilled at the appearance of creation. It is possible to speak eloquently about the work, explain its philosophy, and describe what it will eventually become. You can build an identity around ideas that have never acquired form. But explanation is not creation. Potential is not creation. Creative intelligence is not creation. They belong to the creator, but they do not complete the definition. The creator must become capable of carrying a possibility through limitation, imperfection, and resistance, until it assumes a form outside the mind. This requires creative discipline. Creative discipline explains how the creator builds. It is the capacity to select one possibility, accept responsibility for it, and continue working after reality has disturbed its original perfection. Without that discipline, greater access merely creates a larger graveyard. You acquire more tools, absorb more information, and generate more possibilities, but become less capable of choosing what deserves to become real. Each new idea competes with the one you have already chosen. Each new skill presents another possible direction. This is the hidden danger of creative intelligence when it is not joined to discipline. The same mind capable of perceiving extraordinary possibilities may become incapable of remaining with one possibility long enough to give it life. You are therefore confronted by a difficult truth. The gates may have fallen, but access alone cannot turn imagination into form. Technology can shorten the distance between possibility and reality, but it cannot cross that distance for you. The final gatekeeper is now you. And this is the problem examined in the Institute of Creation's foundational guide, What Does It Really Mean to Be a Creator?, the book on which this essay is based. The book was not written to teach you how to acquire an audience, increase your digital visibility, or satisfy an algorithm. It does not reduce your creative life to the continuous production of content, nor does it promise that the right collection of tools will automatically transform your ideas into meaningful work. It addresses the more demanding question beneath your entire practice. What kind of person must you become to carry an original possibility from imagination into reality? At the center of the book is creative intelligence, the capacity through which you perceive possibilities that do not yet exist, connect ideas across disciplines, and imagine coherent worlds before they have assumed physical form. But because perception is only the beginning of creation, the book also introduces cognitive flexibility as the practical discipline through which imagination and execution can work together. It examines how you can preserve the essential truth of a vision while remaining flexible about the form through which it enters the world. It teaches you to adapt your approach without abandoning your destination, respond to limitations without surrendering ambition, and continue building when reality refuses to obey the original plan. Creative intelligence explains how you perceive the invisible. Creative discipline explains how you give it form. The book provides the structural framework required to unite the two. Other than offering another motivational appeal to believe in yourself, it is written for the creator who possesses genuine vision but has struggled to organize it, the generalist who has mistaken range for confusion, and the builder who is tired of watching important possibilities remain unfinished. Talent may influence what you are capable of imagining. It may determine the beauty of your first attempt or the speed at which you acquire new skills. But talent alone cannot determine whether you remain with the work when the excitement disappears, adapt when the original plan fails, or continue until the idea possesses a life outside you. That requires creative discipline. What Does It Really Mean to Be a Creator? Is available from the Grand Library at thegrandlibrary.earth. Visit the website to explore the book and begin developing the discipline required to move your most important ideas from imagination into form. because seeing the possibility is only the beginning. Which returns us to the distinction between a creator and a content producer, because the two roles describe fundamentally different relationships with what is being made. A creator is someone who accepts responsibility for carrying a possibility from imagination into form, from the invisible into the visible, and for what that form sets in motion once it enters the world. You see what does not yet exist. You build until it becomes real. You answer for the reality you have produced. That is what it really means to be a creator. Creative intelligence allows you to perceive the possibility. Creative discipline allows you to give it form. Responsibility follows because the form now exists beyond you. This is what separates a creator from a content producer. Content production is organized primarily around output. Something is expressed, published, distributed, and measured by the attention it receives. Creation begins earlier and ends later. It begins with the perception of a possibility that does not yet exist. It continues through the discipline required to give that possibility form, and it extends into responsibility for what that form begins to do once it enters the world. A content producer is defined principally by what they publish. A creator is defined by what enters the world because they accepted responsibility for an idea. A content producer may ask what can be made to hold attention. As a creator, you must also ask what deserves that attention. A content producer may measure whether an audience responded. As a creator, you must also examine what the work produced within the people who encountered it. A content producer may consider the work complete when it has been published. As a creator, you must understand that publication is often the moment the work's influence begins. A story can dignify a way of life or diminish it. A product can improve human behavior or cultivate dependency. A company can distribute opportunity or concentrate power. An image can enlarge a person's understanding of beauty or teach them to despise themselves. Once the invisible has become visible, it begins participating in reality alongside you. This is why your ideas are not merely ornaments for the mind, they are possibilities placed within your care. You may not be required to build every idea that appears to you. Creative discipline includes the wisdom to decide which possibilities should remain possibilities. But once you determine that an idea deserves to acquire form, you must consider more than whether you are capable of completing it. You must ask what its existence will make possible. What values does it carry? What behavior does it reward? What understanding of humanity does it assume? What kind of world does it quietly help to build? Creative discipline is therefore not only the ability to finish, it is the discipline to become conscious of what you are finishing. Without that consciousness, creative intelligence can become merely productive rather than purposeful. You may become highly skilled at moving ideas into the world without examining whether those ideas deserve the influence they receive. This does not mean you can predict every interpretation or control every consequence. No creator possesses complete authority over what their work becomes in the minds and hands of others. But uncertainty does not remove responsibility. It only deepens the need for discernment. The world is not transformed by the ideas people privately possess. It is transformed by the ideas they are disciplined enough to give form and responsible enough to direct towards something worthy. Responsibility is therefore not a moral burden added to creation after the work has been completed. It is the inevitable consequence of what creation is. To bring something into existence is to alter the conditions of the world, however quietly. Your work can enter other minds, influence how people see themselves, alter what they desire, and contribute to the beliefs, behaviors, and values through which a culture understands itself. To create is therefore to enter a relationship between imagination, discipline, and responsibility. Imagination allows you to perceive what does not yet exist. Discipline enables you to carry it into reality. Responsibility requires you to answer for what that reality makes possible. This is why an audience cannot confer the title of creator upon you. A platform can make you visible, but it cannot determine the substance of what you build. Attention may accompany creation, but it is not its proof. The proof is that something exists because you accepted responsibility for an unseen possibility and remained with it until the world could encounter it. The world does not merely need more output. It needs creators capable of understanding the weight of bringing something into existence. It needs creators whose imagination is matched by discipline, whose ambition is restrained by wisdom, and whose desire to build is inseparable from the responsibility to build well. So the question is no longer merely whether you are creative. Your ideas have probably answered that already. The question is whether you are prepared to become responsible for the movement from imagination into form, from possibility into reality, and from the invisible into the visible. Because you do not become a creator when the idea arrives. You become a creator when what once existed only within you is finally able to enter the world, and you are prepared to answer for what it sets in motion. If this essay changed the way you understand the identity and responsibility of a creator, like the video, share it with someone bringing an idea into the world, and subscribe for more essays on creation, culture, and the future. Visit thegrandlibrary.earth to explore The Art of Creation, a collection from the Institute of Creation. Join our mailing list for new books, essays, and correspondence from the Grand Library.